Feeling worn down by political extremes and empty rhetorics? You are not alone. In the Middle is a podcast for people seeking a space to bridge the gap and have productive conversations. And today I have with me Edwin, a brilliant and young Malaysian. Welcome, Edwin. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
Guys, my name is Edwin, as you just mentioned. So I'm actually a researcher at Insap. It's a think tank in Malaysia. So my focus topics are actually more of the bread and butter stuff that affects our livelihoods. You know, the daily life things, not too top line economy stuff, but more to what's related to our daily activities, like things like unemployment, your social security, and those stuff.
Nice. Let's dive into it then. Let's talk about the bread and butter issue. So, recently BNM forecast that the Malaysian economy, our growth to be between 4 and 5% this year. There are also positive signs on the investment front. Confidence among foreign investors seem to be rising and gradually recovering post-pandemic. In 2023 alone, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim even mentioned that roughly 70 billion US dollars worth of investments were approved, with over half coming from FDI, foreign direct investments. And crucially, if these investments translate into business expansion, it can lead to a strong job market, right? The ability of the administration to ensure this translation is a key question. So on that note, let's look at the job market today, Edwin. What are your thoughts on how this economic growth is going to translate into more opportunities for job-seeking Malaysians?
Yeah, I mean, generally as a nation, right? I mean, if your economy expands, your investments rises, probably you'll be expecting your corresponding increase in job creation. Definitely, if your economy booms, there are probably more chances of you getting employed.
Yeah.
And I mean, based on the data, generally your unemployment rate in Malaysia, it seems pretty steady. It's at 3.3% in January 2024, which isn't, there's no, in a sense, decrease or increase from the previous month. It's been constant.
Okay.
And we look at the digits itself, your unemployed individuals actually has improved by about 500 individuals. While that's not a lot, there's actually some form of improvement.
500 individuals in a period of how long?
1 month.
A month, okay.
Yep.
All right.
However, I mean, while these numbers seem pretty stable in that sense, when we deep dive and narrow down your scope specifically to youth, I think we can see sort of an issue here.
Okay. Well, we talked about strong foreign investment figures and encouraging signs, but you're raising concerns about youth unemployment, right? I read your commentary in CNA last week. Perhaps you could elaborate further how the challenges that young Malaysians face in the job market, even in this generally positive economic outlook.
Yeah, sure. I mean, when we look at youth unemployment itself, we are looking at a 10.6% unemployment rate for those aged 15 to 24. And when we expand the scope of age group, it actually lowers down to 6.7% when we look at those aged until 30. And this 6.7%, I mean, generally when you look at the numbers as a citizen yourself, 6.7%, it looks pretty manageable in that sense.
Yeah, not too serious. Yeah.
But if you look past the percentages, when you look at the numbers itself, this would translate into about 439,000 youth which are unemployed, right?
That's close to 500,000 youth unemployed.
So if you put that into context, if you fit them in the Bukit Jalil National Stadium, you probably treat 4 to 5 times the capacity.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think making this even worse, it's that if you consider the total unemployment rates and you compare it with youth unemployment rates, this 439K actually takes up approximately 77% of all unemployed Malaysians.
Oh wow, that's a serious gap, right? Yeah. Okay.
I mean, with this 77% unemployed individuals, right? And I think when you look at the data, the trends itself, while the job creations in Malaysia, it's, I would say, still at a positive rate, but if you compare to levels before, it is slowing down. So I think you would see your numbers, in a sense, will be going up.
Yeah.
And I think this trend of Malaysians moving abroad, especially to Singapore, which we would term as a brain drain.
Yeah.
I think the situation will be sort of,
Yeah, okay. So, okay, speaking of brain drain, we've been talking about it, a brain drain is not a new term for us, right? We've heard of this, especially this is a problem, especially impacting many developing countries. So, how worried should we be about this impact on Malaysia's skilled workforce?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're actively browsing social media, you would see a lot like, Malaysian earns 10K in Singapore for, cleaning the dishes. So I think, Malaysians are not, it's not a foreign topic to us, brain drain.
Yeah.
So I think this it happens worldwide. Lah. I mean, people go overseas to sort of pick up different experiences, your regional experiences, new skill sets. But I think Malaysia's rate is sort of worrying because globally, on average, it's 3.3% of people moving abroad. But in Malaysia, we're looking at 5.5%. That's, I would say, close to double. And this 5.5% actually translates to 1.85 million Malaysians who left the country.
That's a huge number. So, how does this connect to the high youth unemployment rate that we're facing now?
So, I mean, Malaysia's rate is at 5.5%. It's quite worrying. And interestingly, actually, 60% of them headed to our neighbours, which are Singapore. And the real kicker here is that nearly 3/4 of these Malaysians moving to Singapore are actually going for skilled or semi-skilled professionals. So it's not your things like cleaning.
Not the low-skilled
yeah,
labor,
Yeah, we are
okay.
actually seeing professionals moving there.
Okay.
And I think in this sense, it gets more concerning as I would say, based on this study conducted, that actually 62% of these Malaysians working in Singapore have no plans to return. So, I mean, in the longer term, if these rates do keep up, we're actually seeing a very vicious cycle in a sense where, I mean, even with the weakening ringgit, it makes Singapore look like a very enticing choice.
Very attractive, yeah.
Are we going to see a very huge number of Malaysians moving there for, I mean, permanent arrangements?
Yeah. So how does this, Edwin, impact or connect to the high youth unemployment rate that we're facing within the country?
Yeah, so I mean, generally, when your skilled professionals, like I mentioned earlier, they depart for other countries like Singapore, this creates sort of a vacuum of expertise and experience in the local job market. And to be specific, 68% of these professionals moving are actually aged 39 and below. So these are not people sort of into the late days of their career. These are at the peak or the younger stage.
Yeah, or just starting out. Yeah.
I mean, even our investment minister, Datuk Sri Tengku Zafrul, has actually acknowledged this problem. I mean, he stated that Malaysia is currently needs to fill skilled positions, specifically your electric and electronic industry, with foreign graduates because we are lacking these qualified locals.
Very interesting, when you talk about this skills mismatch. So last week we had a speaker in the middle, Chris Daniel Wong. He pointed out during a visit to this Airbus plant, right, in the factory, he was very surprised to see that the workers in the factory, they are neither engineers nor master degrees holder. But they're trained and they're so skilled that their job is specifically to build aircrafts. Do you think that it is something that we should be looking at? Our leaders, our administrators, should we be looking at finding a focal industry, to prioritize, and then preparing, our human resources, investing in labor, in training, to make sure that we have, a generation of skilled workers to meet the demands of these specific industries?
Yeah, I think in the sense of long-term strategy, yeah, that's definitely something that should be considered. I mean, as a developing nation, we should sort of find a niche industry to go into. We shouldn't be sort of scattered and looking at different industries, try to grow something a bit and push a bit here and there. But I think, yeah, it's having a industry that we know we have the specialties in to become, sort of take it as a driver for our economy moving forward. Yeah, I think that's definitely a thing to look into.
Yeah, I agree. So, I'm a mother with, 2 young children and with another one on the way, and I'm constantly worried about, their future, what is the job market that's going to be out there, waiting for them. So let's talk a little bit more about skills mismatch. We have noticed that in the past 3 decades, in Malaysia alone, we have seen a remarkable surge in the number of tertiary education enrollment. And the student numbers skyrocketed nearly 26 folds, from 46,596 in 1980 to a staggering 1.2 million in year 2020. This significant increase in graduates, right, begs the question, are we adequately preparing our youth for the job market, or are we, potentially setting them up for disappointment if they cannot find jobs that matches their skill sets?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point you pointed out. Yeah, I think I want to touch a little bit more on your skills mismatch that you mentioned. I mean, just for general context to the audience. Skills mismatch, it refers to the gap between the skills you have and the skills your employers seek when they are looking for you, to employ you. I think a good example to look at would be your job trends in this platform called My Future Jobs, which is actually a government initiative. It's a national employment portal for your job seekers and employers. Right, so I mean, based on the latest data in 2022, 86% of these listed jobs on this portal actually required only your Sijil Pelajar in Malaysia, your SPM level. in terms of-
86%?
Yes, in
SPM
terms of
only?
in
Okay.
terms of academic qualifications. So I mean, if there's any international viewers watching our podcast, your SPM is actually Malaysia's equivalent to your O levels,
Yep.
and nearly half of these jobs, the 86% I mentioned, were actually for low-skilled occupations. I mean, that sort of makes sense. The lower your education level, generally, your occupations you're going for wouldn't exactly be a high-skilled one.
Yeah.
But when you look at these numbers, right, the sad part is that most individuals working in this group actually possess much more than SPM. 56% actually possess a diploma, and 41% possess a bachelor's degree. So I think I would like to echo the point you stated earlier. Are they wasting their money? I mean, is there a return investment for the education that's 3 to 4 years that could be used for, like,
Yeah. So they pay money to get technically overqualified
Correct,
for the
correct.
jobs that are waiting for them.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, in terms of overqualification, there's actually 63% of those aged 15 to 34 that are actually skilled related underemployed. As I mentioned earlier, skills mismatch, meaning you're being underemployed in terms like your qualifications are too much or you have way more skills than what the job requires.
yeah.
And this 63%, as I mentioned, it's in the 15-34 age bracket. This means that this skills mismatch thing is happening quite early in their careers.
Yeah.
It's not your older generation at all. It's the younger people.
So they get disappointed even earlier on in life. So, okay, Evan, so given this disconnect, right, between graduate qualifications and the job market needs, coupled with the rising number of graduates, right, we are seeing a trend, right? We are seeing young Malaysians turning to alternative work arrangements like the gig economy, right? I think we've seen a significant surge in gig workers, with nearly 4 million Malaysians participating in this sector.
4 million.
Yeah. So, okay, delivery services, for example, yeah, I've got this data here. They're heavily reliant on young adults. A 2022 study revealed that 98% of delivery riders are under the age of 30, right? So this trend raises some important questions, right? What are your thoughts on this shift in the workforce? Is it good? Is it bad? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, before I get into the serious stuff, I mean, I think this goes out to a lot of viewers that I think we should be treating our riders with a bit more politeness in that sense. I mean, you see that a lot of these riders are actually younger
Yeah.
people. So yeah, good to give them some sort of respect.
Well, I thought like basic courtesy, shouldn't be demanded. I mean, it should go. This goes without saying, right? But unfortunately, we are seeing, this culture of bullying, in terms of treatment towards the gig economy workers. Yeah. So back to the serious bit. Do you think this increased participation of young Malaysians in the gig economy, is it something good or, yeah?
I mean, before we look into the participation of young people in the gig economy, we should first see, in a sense, why is the gig economy growing? So I think that really points to, in a sense, where our formal sectors perhaps don't provide enough opportunities to these young grads. And I think this all ties back sort of to your foreign direct investment strategy, right? I think when we evaluate your FDI projects and all, I think a good question to raise when we evaluate these projects is that, it's a two angle thing, in
Yeah.
a sense where are we attracting investments which are of too much of a low value, while in terms of monetary or dollar value it is high, but the investment itself is of low value in terms of like the industry.
The skill sets required,
correct,
right?
correct.
Yeah, okay.
That's one. And number two, it's that are those high value investments that are coming in, like as I mentioned earlier, the electronic and electrical industry. While they are of high value, meaning they do create high skilled jobs, but our workforce it's not ready for that. So would this make us turn to foreign grads in that sense?
Yeah.
So I think this factor definitely has to be considered when we look at FDI projects. So now, I mean back to sorry for taking a circle, but back to your gig economy question is that I think I mean as a young person myself, I would say it's a very attractive option. You get to be your own boss. You get to manage your time. There's
Flexibility, yeah.
correct. You know, I can just hang around. If I want to take more orders, delivery, I can go for it.
Sounds like a dream here. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no denying the sort of a strong appeal of this gig economy, the flexibility, the freedom. But I think, I mean, as a young Malaysian myself, I do have some concerns on the long-term sustainability of this career, which I think many young people would sort of resonate with my worries as well.
Yeah.
So I think firstly, it's your income stream. We are looking at a very inconsistent income stream when it comes to gig work, right?
Yeah.
Maybe in terms of like when it's a very rainy season, your period, maybe you get more orders for delivery, right? Maybe your income stream is going to be more, in a sense, heavier. Of course, that taking into account that you don't mind riding in the rain and sort of risking your safety in a sense. But when it comes to maybe festive period, people are more to like getting together in restaurants and all. Your income stream is going to go down.
Yeah.
So I think this will make it very difficult for them to access your financial products, which require a sort of stable income stream, like for instance, insurance, your loans. And I think these benefits are sort of crucial for long-term financial security.
Yeah. So it does have its short-term advantages, right? Well, but it's still, pretty unpredictable and unstable. And it is actually at the expense of a long-term security, right? And long-term supply of reliable, skilled workforce, to serve the industry. So it sounds like this can only be addressed by our policymakers, by the administrator. We need to, you can agree with me or not, but I think we need a clear direction on what should we be focusing on, say, for the next 5 to 10 years. We do not want to fall into this old problem of, I remember growing up, right, there was a time where parents were flocking to send their children to become, to study IT, and then we ended up having a whole bunch of IT graduates, right? And then we had oversupply, and then they ended up, having severe skills mismatch, and they then fell into industry that they didn't even think about, when starting, the education. So here's what we really need, a clear direction on which industries we are going to be focusing on our energy on, and engage the stakeholders. Make sure that the institutions, the people, the experts in industry, those who have the know-how, they participate in the training and preparation and the building of capacity of this workforce that can meet future demands. What do you think? Is this something that should be prioritized? Because I think it makes sense to me, and I wonder why we haven't done it yet. Yeah.
Before I cycle back to your question, it's like when you touched on long-term stability of gig workers.
Yeah.
I think one more thing popped up in my mind because I recently wrote a paper on social security and the EPF landscape in Malaysia, where we actually see a sort of a retirement crisis. A lot of Malaysians don't have the money to retire.
Yeah.
So if the gig economy were to expand, they don't have a consistent income stream, and it comes to, like, let's say EPF contributions. If not mistaken, they are able to contribute voluntarily, but with these inconsistent streams, how much can they actually contribute in the long run?
Yeah, they're not really driven to save, via EPF. Yeah.
So while we haven't yet to solve the issue of our current retirement crisis, I think this will be a repeated cycle if we don't solve the sort of protection for your gig workers. In the long term, you're going to see more and more retirement crises coming up for Malaysia.
So we have a retirement crisis, and on top of that, we now have the youth unemployment crisis.
Yeah, I think it works hand in hand in that sense.
Doesn't sound very promising. Well, okay, let's talk about something that we can do, or is there a way that we can get ourselves out of this situation? We've always heard about vocational training. Edwin, do you think that this is something that we can go into? We can, spend more money on, to bridge the gap, so to speak. What do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean, vocational education. I mean, Malaysia, it's known as TVET. I would say the potential is there, right? But it would require a two-side approach in the sense where I think the government has to do more in terms of solving your internal flaws, which I'll touch upon in a bit.
Okay.
And I think the other side would be your perception of a lot of parents. I think they view this vocational education a bit of something like a blue-collar, dirty work.
The not glamorous jobs. Yeah.
And funny to say that I think the job opportunities of these TVET grads are more promising than your sort of like education, which many people say it's like guarantees you jobs like medical, law practices and all.
Yeah, I don't have the data right now with me, but this is what I hear, just in, just kopitiam talk, right? You can hear people talking about how difficult it is to get a plumber to come and work, on your pipes at home, and how lucrative it is, to be an electrician, a contractor, and these contractors and plumbers, they're earning way more than our degree holders, and they have jobs waiting for them even before they graduate. So I think, yeah, you pointed out a serious problem here, but I thought we shouldn't all lose hope, because the government has announced that they are allocating, how much is it? 6.8 billion ringgit.
6.8 billion in the
Yeah.
2024 budget for TVET.
Yeah.
Meaning that I think they have allocated a portion for University Kuala Lumpur to be turned into Malaysia's first TVET university.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you talk about budgets, I mean, it's easy to just place a figure there. But I think, people on the ground, while they see this as a very positive announcement that, there's a huge allocation going to TVET to grow, given its potential. But I think people on the ground will want to know what's the action plan, behind these numbers, 6.8 billion.
Yeah.
What is the 6.8 billion being allocated for? If it's just to build more centers, is that really going to help?
Yeah, I think so. I think you've pointed out something crucial. We need a plan. We need to be able to see that plan being translated into action. Right, the government needs to be clearer in informing us on how we're going to exactly spend this money. Right, how are we going to produce skilled workers, for the industry. And I think, more than that, like you mentioned earlier, parents. I think we need a paradigm shift in the way we think about career and about dignity. Of having a job. I think all professions, all jobs, as long as they're doing something meaningful, constructive in the community, they're making good livelihood out of it, right? And I do not think we should judge or discriminate across industries.
Yeah, I really resonate with that point in terms of, it's a very fulfilling job. I mean, as you know, like sometimes when you employ plumbers to come and fix your sink and all, your electricians to fix your wiring, the bills usually don't come out that cheap, meaning I think they're earning quite a fair amount to sustain their living. And I think, as you said, it's a very fulfilling job in a sense where you earn money while fixing people's problems.
Exactly, and it's a much needed to be fixed problems. Yeah. Okay, I think we've covered quite a fair bit today, and I just want to bring everyone's attention to this beautiful article that I've read. It's by Jason, right, at Insap as well. He, on TVET.
Formerly Insap.
Oh, formerly Insap. Okay, all right. So he has proposed Malaysia adopt this model that is similar to the Netherlands model, where we have a designated agency or department to actually, have a system, organized as centers representing different sectors. For example, from your healthcare to construction to engineering professionals to administrative professions, logistics, transport, agriculture, you name it, But under one governing body that is tasked to oversee the issuance of a set curriculum, and the qualification structure. Do you think that this is a time to do it for Malaysia?
Yeah, I think definitely it's never too late.
Yeah.
And I think it's never too early as well. So I think it comes at the right time right now, given the current situation of youth unemployment. And
Yeah.
I think I would say personally, reading a lot of reports on TVET itself internally, I think it's very fragmented. As you mentioned, it's a lot of different jabatan, different
Ministries or
yeah.
agencies, trying to help and do something about it, but we have yet to see a coordinated effort.
Correct.
So I think one body, that takes care of just, vocational training and education itself would really help us.
Yes.
I mean, it's not that we do not appreciate the efforts already taken to help, and improve this sector, but I think definitely it's time that we look into having a designated body just to do this, just to handle this.
I mean,
Yeah.
you've already seen cases like, the negative effects of not having something consistent in terms of plans. Let's talk about education again.
Yeah.
I mean, over the years, when government changes, everyone's educational blueprint, that the plan all changes from your KSSM goes to KSSR. The sudden switch, PT3, PMR,
Yeah.
that suddenly the introduction of HOTS or KBAT questions. I think education isn't something to be sort of in quote played with. It has to be
Yes.
very consistent so that
Correct.
we have consistency in terms of graduates we produce, the curriculum we are looking at. I think that this centralized body, as you mentioned,
Correct.
it
I
points the
completely
correct
agree
direction.
with you, Evan, because this is not something that we can really discontinue or decide to jump around or change our mind overnight. So yeah, I agree. I think high time that we look into having that uniform body to take care of vocational training.
Correct.
And I think with that, we have covered the issue of youth unemployment in a relatively positive economic outlook. All right, we're not trying to sound negative here, but we do hope that the voices of the youth, the future of the youth are given priority, in the country. And I think we cannot afford to wait any longer. I think the announcement of allocating 6.8 billion ringgit, to do vocational training, should be taken positively, but we also think that it should be followed up, with concrete action. Yeah. So Edwin, thank you so much. I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, hope to have you back again, and we can then explore other issues that is close to the hearts of many ordinary Malaysians. Thank you, Edwin.
you.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us on this episode of In the Middle. We'll see you again next.